Okay, folks, good morning. We're definitely been invaded by quite a few tanks here. And we need to clean up this area before we do anything else. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. And it'll give us some time for people to work their way over here. First thing I need to do is get rid of some of these glasses. I got like tons of glasses here. I got the super readers plus two other pairs. Let me get these out of here. We'll leave one of each. We got some of these colors. I ended up going to the store and picked up some more chocolate brown, so we should be okay on that. We'll leave these colors here. We'll probably need them here in a moment. Hull red. We're going to need hull red here soon. Okay. Now, where does that leave us? This is the extra stand here. I don't need that right now. So, let's just go ahead and finish the tanks up. Or at least epoxy them. So they can get them out of the way here. As I've got them right now, I've got each particular each particular tank goes on each particular stand. I went ahead and painted the ruts in the chocolate brown, so it makes it easier to hide some of that stuff when we go to glue them. But we're still going to give them a dry brush of the mid-tone, the U.S. Field Drab, which I would have picked up a bottle of it, but I don't think they carry it. So this is, we're going to go ahead and we should be able to just dry brush on here. We got some grit here. I'm not really sure what the hell it is. We're going to have to vacuum in here today. So I did not want to grind on those buildings. And then we've got those buildings to start working on. That's really what I want to do this morning. I got some touch up to do with the black. And then we can work on that because that's going to take a little while. All right, so we're going to grab this and we're just going to grab one of these and just go over the ruts like that, put it back on there, move it off to the side. Just assembly line shit. I let too many of these get out of control, and I still have to do a batch for the martyrs and the armored cars, but that'll have to wait till next time. I had these stands already ready to go. We'll do the good guys first. How can you say that? Because I'm not stupid. Finished Band of Brothers last night with a daughter. She really liked it. I didn't realize there's so much of the last episode I didn't remember. And then I think we're going to start the Pacific, which I've only seen once. And I remember not really liking it that much, but I suspect I'll like it enough. It's a good thing about these acrylic paints is by the time I get back to the first one, it'll already be dry enough. Not that this is very wet at any point anyways. Oh, let me make sure I do something before I forget. And that is Make sure live chat's on. All right, so we have everything on there. Live chat is not what it defaults to. In live chat, I found out that it actually doesn't let you post some things. That's not even controversial. I mean, if you were posting, hateful stuff, all right, but people don't post that here. Let's not start that trend, too. I mean, you guys know how to behave. I want to make sure my viewers are people that can behave in the real world. Big cats. Meow meow. Actually, the Shermans are pretty good tank. I mean, all the pretty big tank. All of the Panzers, 3s and 4s, they're just over 20 tons. The 3s and the 4s. I think the 4s are just a little bit heavier, like 2 tons or something like that heavier than the 3s. Obviously, it depends a little on the model. They kept getting heavier as you went along for the most part. The Shermans jumped that another 10 tons. The Shermans are 30, 31, 32 tons. And these Panthers are 45. So they're, hefty jokers. I don't know where the T-34s fit in there. I have to look that up. I have a feeling the T-34s are closer to the Panzer IV weight. Anyhow, we didn't have a show this morning, so if you missed it, you really didn't miss it, because there wasn't one. I was planning on doing a show, but by the time I woke up later than I normally do, and had breakfast, I didn't want to get the whole thing going for about 45 minutes, so I'm like, yeah. We'll try to make up for it today. And the next time I have a lot of time on my hands, which may be a while, I'll try and see if we can go back to the other setting on the computer. But I certainly don't want to do it when I have a limited amount of time and then end up burning an hour to try to get the feed working back how it used to. But I don't know. Nobody really complained about doing it this way with a little phone stand. I'd rather not burn an hour trying to get frustrated with some electronic thing that used to work just fine and for whatever reason doesn't work now. Just the tiniest of... I always say I don't have the right personality type for that. If filming is going to cause that kind of frustration, I would have never even started it to begin with. I don't do a hobby to get frustrated. It's the opposite of that. Okay, I'm going to need a bigger one than this. Let's drop that in here. Yep, I got this old beat up one. And we'll do the same thing with Iraqi sand. Oh, and I skipped over the tiger. I don't know what I'm going to do with the tiger. I'm going to set him off to this. Oh, and the Yag tiger out there as well. Shit. I don't know what I'm going to do with the tiger. I think I'm going to have to grind part of the bottom of it here. And this is just the footprint on it. There's just extra resin on here. And I either have to build this up to hide that, or I need to grind this down. And I think I'm going to have to grind it down. It's pretty significant. So we're going to just take this one and the Tiger one, and we're going to put it in the case up here. Gets it out of the way. We're going to punt on that one. But this is why I don't like having this all disorganized, because, oh, look, I didn't even paint the bottom of it. Bastard. All right, well. That's the new one, all right? This is the new one or the one I've had before? This is the one I've had before. I'm just going to put some of this chocolate brown here. This one's going to take a little bit of time to dry. All right. This is, in my opinion, the best looking one. Only because of the unique camouflage scheme on it. Not that I'm a huge fan of the particular vehicle. But to be able to do this primer red and it look like this, yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. All right, I guess we'll have to put this one back here somewhere. Get it out of the way, because we're probably not going to paint. We're not going to finish it up today. That's going to take some drying time. Yeah. Okay. Iraqi sand. All right. It's funny, for 18 years, I wasn't using brushes that are this size, and now it seems like I use much bigger brushes. I'm doing dry brushing and terrain and all kinds of stuff that these brushes go through a lot more hell than painting, faces. But it also means you can actually tolerate a brush that's a lot more trashed than if you were using one for details. I see people advertising those little round makeup brushes or something like that for doing dry brushing. And I'm like, I'm just fine using a brush that costs about, 20 cents. Because it's going to get abused. There's nothing I can do about it. That's it. We're just going to dry brush the rut, so when we glue it down and any of this ends up showing underneath there, it's basically the same color that's on top. So hopefully we can be done with this by 6. We can move on to the other stuff. I got some stuff to touch up. And then maybe if there's a lot of stuff to touch up and it's still wet, then we'll come back and put the little grass and stuff on these guys. But I actually was surprised how many people have a problem with stands on tanks. Like I said before, I could go either way on it. I see the advantages of each. But there's some vehicles that I just can't get away with. They're going to have to be on stands because they're too. Originally, I was like, okay, I'm going to travel with these things. I don't want these things damaged. I just come to realize I'm not going to travel with this stuff. This will only get played here. I'm not taking this to a show. I'm not going to have to worry about where the hell they're going to walk off to with passersby. I don't want to deal with that drama. But I don't want some of my vehicles to be on stands and some not. It just looks incomplete. I'm actually okay with the vehicles not being on stand, but like a motorcycle. I'm going to have motorcycles. Motorcycles are going to have to be on stands. They're going to have to be. They're too fall over-ish. But if it wasn't for stuff like that, I'd be fine with these vehicles not on stands. All these would be able to be just fine without them. But then I guess we all have our own things that we would never do. They won't understand why other people do them. One guy I used to watch, and I used to watch him because I don't watch him anymore, went on a pretty calm dude, but he went on a rant about, I guess it was several years ago, about the size of the horses that the Normans did. And he would just basically said that they should be on like ponies and stuff. So anytime he sees Normans, he's like really frustrated because on a size horse he doesn't believe that they had. I don't really have an opinion in that one, but we all have our things that we're intolerant about, and we're just not gonna put up with, in our hobby. That's fine. It's you are the artist. You get to decide how it gets to be done. I don't like putting this kind of detail in a game, and then they play like Flames of War, where literally the tanks are touching next to each other, but somehow 3 inches is 500 yards or something like that. I'm like, that's not the visual that I want to see. So we all have our preferences. And it's fine as long as I don't know if you have to respect other people's opinions, but you can't be so opinionated and then understand. Be so opinionated and put other people's ideas down, and then people don't understand why they don't like your stuff. Well, why don't you like what I'm doing? Well, because you're like a dick, and you're like not. It goes both ways. I get it, So I don't care what people do in their home. I'm not here to convert anybody or on a crusade. I have my preference in scale. If you like doing a different scale, if you're one of those 28 millimeter guys, have at it. I'm not. The people ask me, why do you do this scale? I said, because I've always done it. I don't have a tie-in with Warhammer or anything like that, or where I'm used to gaming in 28 millimeter. I've never really gamed in 28 millimeter. it's like a kid's scale to me. You know, it's like the kids were playing that. So, but it's good for the consumer to have options. You know, everybody's gonna have a different opinion. Some people are like, I do 28, oh, cool, and then somebody's like, well, I'll do 40s. You know, like, how about it, man? I think I mentioned this before. I had a train set when I was a kid that my dad got me. One of those electric train sets. And my dad had a bunch of HO scale stuff, 187th. When he got it for me, he got me O scale, which I think is close to 148th. Has 3 rails, which I thought was annoying. Like, I got the center rail that no train tracks have, you know? I'm like a 7-year-old kid, and I could figure that out. I'm like, this is kind of annoying. Doesn't look like a real train. Every time I went to a hobby store to find stuff for my scale, O scale train, didn't have anything. Oh, we don't have that. We don't carry that. We don't have that. We don't have it. We have N scale. We have HO scale. And it was really annoying to be in some scale that other people had things for it and I did not. So when I started gaming, I'm like, I'm not doing anything that there's not a whole lot of support for. You know? So what do we do next? Epoxy these bastards down? Okay, hunting tiger is going to have to wait. For sure. Yeah, I think so. I'm really not looking forward to this part. But it must be done. It must be done. So yeah, I don't want to get involved in something there's not a lot of support for. Mr. Marcus, Mr. Ben, both sides of the pond. Ben, here's a question for you. Since you are an Anglo-American, what is it? Because I suspect that you probably think, not to put you on the spot or anything, there's probably some stuff. Most of the time, you think like you're like from your people, like you think like most of the people across the pond. What is it that? Because you live over there, you know. It's like English is not my first language. I didn't know English until I was like 5 or 6 years old. Started going to school. Always spoke to my folks in Spanish at home, but I don't think in Spanish, you know. But anyhow, what is it that when you go over there you feel American? What is the American stuff? What are topics or things that you're like, these blokes over here don't know what they're talking about? Is there anything, or are you just like completely acclimated to? And I'll use an example for me. I totally think like I'm from here, except when it comes, and there may be more than one thing, but if there are, it's not very many things. The one thing I don't like about the people of this country, is drinking. These Anglo-Saxons, these puritanical Anglo-Saxons, are so uptight about alcohol. And don't get me wrong, I don't remember the last time. Yeah, I do. I had a beer yesterday. I went to a movie theater with my daughter and had a beer. I rarely drink, but I just don't. I don't understand this whole 21 drinking age nonsense. I definitely am not a supporter of that. At least for kids that are well behaved, that have been raised by me. There, did I just incriminate myself in something? I just think it's just the dumbest fucking thing ever. It's a cultural thing for us. So, but with that said, I don't really drink, but that's probably the thing I'm the most like, what am I doing in this place? And why do people think like this? Is there something where you're like, I'm totally with the American way they think? Hornby have brought out a new scale, TT, a little between N and OO gauge. Hornby. Are those the guys that bought? Those are the guys that bought Airfix, right? Hornby. Now, keep in mind what I just said. I don't know anybody in my family that is an alcoholic. We all kind of have the same. I don't even drink every week. It's just not that important. I just don't like somebody telling me, oh, you're an adult, but you can't have a beer. Like, what the hell, man? I know you Europeans are like, yeah, these people are crazy over here. I don't know. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason they kicked people out of the fucking Mayflower. Okay, there's a reason why. There's a reason why they said, we're leaving, and they're like, good fucking riddance. Oh man, Mr. Jacques. Blackjack Shellac. Those cartoons are fun. I don't think they play them anymore. I don't think they play the old Bugs Bunny cartoons that I grew up with. They're too offensive. No, they're not. We used to laugh about shit. We got a litany of things. So here we go. Ben, probably not asking the authorities to find a solution to every minor issue that inconveniences somebody for 2 seconds. Okay, so this is what makes you okay. Although it seems it's creeping over in Burgerland too now. Okay, so in Britain, they like to ask the authorities to find a solution to every minor issue that inconveniences somebody for 2 seconds. Although it seems it's creeping over in Burgerland too. It's funny you call this Burgerland because I think you've mentioned it before. I've never heard that term before. It's fine. It's not, offensive, but I don't get offended by things. I just call you, if I don't like something you say, I just say something nasty back to you. That's how we used to do. And if you don't like it, we challenge you to a duel. A gunfight at 3 o'clock in a town square. So that's where those came. So the Karens came from England, huh? I did not know that. I did not take Karen for an English name. I don't want the authorities to be involved in anything. I don't think the government is competent enough, any government, competent enough to solve our problems for us in every situation. There's some stuff you can't do on your own because, it's illegal to hang someone, but talk to each other, man. Yeah. I'm tired of everything going. I'm absolutely tired of lawsuit shit. There's just better things we can do, I think Jacques is in the law system. I think he could use a day off, like having a lawsuit about everything. Yeah, I don't want the government involved at all. I got a police officer that I heard that the house next door finally, we had a house next door when I moved in here that the old, I never met her. The lady who had already been, her husband had passed on, and the kids were trying to sell the house, and the house finally sold, and I think that a police officer bought it. Well, my daughter said a police officer bought it, and by her description, he's like under 5'6", so we know he's going to be jolly. An officer of the law that's short in stature. I'll be friendly to him, but I don't want him in my shit. The first thing I assume is, police officers, even if they're not corrupt, they get involved with stuff that I don't want to be involved in. Like bad people and shit. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. They're and they're super cynical, and I get it why they're super cynical. Everything they encounter is a problem, and they see the worst of humanity. You know, there's parts of society I don't think about at all. That I don't. There's parts of society that are unsavory to most people that I don't think about at all, and they have that front and center in their freaking what they do for a living constantly. I don't know. That's just not a job for me. I don't have a personality type for that. To be like, it doesn't matter how good you do. You're never. It's going to be a problem all the time. Okay, Mr. Ardent, are British tanks he's? You saw someone over here said they wanted wargaming model sizes to be controlled by an industrial body. Hang them. Oh, I'm sorry. And then draw and quarter them. You guys, we get called bongs on account of Big Ben. At least I hope it's because of Big Ben. I've never heard that one either. Bong just doesn't have a good connotation to me. Sorry, if you're into that stuff. I went out with the girls, they went shopping, and I'm like, I went and stayed in the car. As soon as I stepped out of the shopping place, that's what I smelled. I smelled the roadkill smell, as I like to call it. I don't want any part of that shit. Never tried it, not interested. Don't like the humor behind it. It's just not my thing. Never had anybody in my family that was into that. Of course, I have a very small family. That's the advantage of having a really small family is um, you have less of a chance of having some. If your family's really big, you're going to dislike lots of people in it. Arrogant. England, the land of Karens. I didn't know that. I'm sure that's the same thing all around, everywhere now. Bombs. Does Big Ben even work? I guess it does. Well, I'm almost through my Audible book. It's funny because some things that I think are really interesting, I start reading and they're like get really dull. And I picked up this book on a whim. I talked about it as one that was Dan Carlin had done an interview on the author, the authoress, the lady author. I don't know if she identifies as a lady, but she sure sounds like one when she reads her own book. So I'm calling her a lady, and she's just gonna have to deal with it because I'm old school like that. Anyways, the book's actually really interesting. It's science fiction. I don't know, fiction about nuclear war, and it's been pretty captivating, honestly. I got 2 hours left before there's nobody left on freaking Earth. It sure looks like that way. Yeah, but that thing people want to get their congressman involved or something like that to change shit. I don't know. I don't want to have any interaction with anybody in government. I have zero interest. Just stay out of my life. I just don't see what the point is. You know, you get involved with people in government, you realize that government moves slower than the guy at the parts department yesterday. And I mean, they can't even fix the roads. They can't even collect the taxes and fix the roads like they said they're going to. You know, they can't handle the most basic thing that you need government to do. You know, I mean, look, I guess we could all chip in and have the roads fixed. And wait, don't aren't we already chipping in for the roads fixed? So, and it doesn't matter who's in charge of the government; it's always the same thing. So, yeah, I don't want them in my life. You know, jury duty. I've gotten called for jury duty many times, and I think it's really interesting. It can be, but man, you realize how slow things move. And you go in there, and man, they make you feel like you did something freaking wrong. And you're just, hey, I'd be at work if you guys hadn't summoned me for somebody who didn't, broke the law. I don't mind doing it, but man, it really needs to be done. And I'd rather do it on the weekend than I would Monday through Friday where I've got nobody covering for me. Okay. I was like, I was about to say the Shermans are done. No, they're not. We got one little guy sneaking over here. The Sherman lurker. See if we can get this guy down while we have this stuff here. No, I didn't always feel this way. But then you see things in life, you're like, oh, this is how it is? Well, I don't want any part of it. I had a condominium, which is just a fancy name for my first house was a condominium. It's just a fancy name for an apartment that you own, that you pay a mortgage on, right? It wasn't at the beach or anything. Um, I'm not of Norman descent. The ultra rich, as one of you guys used to say. It was just an apartment that, you know, I didn't want him to raise the rent on, so you have a mortgage on it, right? And we had a roof leak, and you can't fix your own roof leak. You have to have an assessment has to be done because they have to fix the whole 4 units, and they have to do an assessment. And before you do an assessment, they have to have a meeting, and they got to meet quorum and all that stuff. Like this is just something really simple, and I realized how incompetent and how like the roof is leaking. We need to fix this now. Well, we got to wait 2 weeks, and we got to wait this for the other thing, and it takes this much time to do it. And I'm like, meanwhile, the problem isn't being fixed, and it's becoming worse. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm not doing another condo again. You know, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not doing that shit. There's some things you can be slow to react about, and there's some things that you need a sense of urgency. The Green Panther. Old Hasagawa Green Panther. You know, even with just this little bit that I want to do this morning, this stuff takes time. Now, I'm going to take that turd, I'm going to move it off to the side. This one is very, 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 very light. Very light. So we're going to have these two going out on a date together, getting to know each other. And put the Sherman on top of the Panther. Yeah, I can't even do that. Yeah, okay. Let's rethink this. Let's take this guy that doesn't misbehave and put him over here. This Britannia Sherman is particularly heavy. Okay, now we'll move this Panther here that obviously needs some help. There. And that might actually be unnecessary, but it doesn't weigh anything. Okay. Six folks. That's it. You're completely British other than that. Other than you have an island full of Karens. Where's the worst Karens? In Scotland or in Cornwall? Or is it the people in the middle? What's the opposite end of England in the south? You got Cornwall all the way in the tip, right? That faces out towards, the place where they kicked the Puritans out. Said, get the fuck out of here and don't come back. And what's the other end? Is that Kent? Hey, I'm not supposed to know. I'm just a stupid American. I've never been over there. At the rate we're going, I probably never will. At least not until I'm retired. Taking vacation is such a pain in the ass. Such a pain in the ass. Not while you're on it. When you're on it, it's fine. It's just leaving. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare coming back. Just trying to leave. Probably London. It seems most of the cyclists that film motorists and report them for minor infractions are based down there. It could just be solved by you guys driving on the correct side of the road. Never gonna live you. I love you guys, but I'm never gonna let you guys live that down. I just don't. I don't. I honestly don't understand why the whole world doesn't drive on the correct side, whatever it is. And it's compromise. Like okay, we'll do the metric system. I'm not metric system unfriendly. I'm really not. Even the temperature one, which is the one I'm the least happy with. I could learn to understand it maybe one day. I understand it. It's just it's the visualization of what it feels like. And I just can't imagine shifting with my left hand. In Ireland, as much as Ireland dislikes the UK, Southern Ireland, they drive on the right side, the same side. I was surprised. I thought for sure Ireland would drive on the other side. Cyclist. Well, I'm all for cyclists. I used to live in a town that was very bike friendly. And look, here's the reality: is I was a poor kid growing up. I mean, there was poorer people than me, but my parents never bought a car for me. I had to go everywhere. I had to go on my bike. When everybody was driving, IROCs or whatever, Firebirds. I'd ride my bike everywhere. If it rained, you got freaking wet and shit like that. Like, I'm not using them. I mean, and I have a bike now, but I just go around the neighborhood and go off road or stuff like that if I want to. But for transportation, yeah, and I've never mixed it up with traffic. Like, there's a roadway that's for fucking cars or for people that want to get killed. Bikes don't go on the roadway. Can they? Sure. Are they legally allowed to? Sure, but I don't want to fucking die. So my bike doesn't go on the roadway with other vehicles. Now, if you're in a neighborhood like this one where the top speed is 25 miles an hour and there's not a lot of traffic and there's no sidewalk, yeah, I ride on the freaking road. Okay, but that's only in the neighborhood, not on any other road. But yeah, these cyclists want to ride somewhere that's, I have a right to. Well, you also have a right to fucking die too. You're gonna get killed. So I don't like people that drive cars because everybody, for the most part, is distracted all of the time, constantly in the freaking car. So much so that I don't really listen to the Audible tapes anymore while I'm driving because I gotta pay attention to everybody. That guy's distracted. What's that guy weaving over there? That guy's making bad choices. Let me stay away from him. It's like you're like a top, you're like a preschool teacher keeping track of all these loose cannons everywhere. There's too many people that think they can multitask and can't. I fully admit I am not a good multitasker and don't want to be. I'm really good at the one thing that I'm doing at that particular time. That's good enough for me. Okay. I'm going to have to mix a batch for one fucking tank, aren't I? You Nazi bastard. Oh, we got some more commentarium. I saw one cyclist go up to a car, pet a dog, then report the driver because the dog wasn't in a harness. See what happens when you don't bully people? It's a fucking dog, man. I mean, when I was in high school, we used to ride in the back of pickup trucks. I mean, if you had a friend that had a pickup truck. I mean, I wouldn't do it now. I'd be, yeah, and not telling the cyclists. Save money in installing speed bumps. They actually have caring restaurant nights here. Oh, dear God. Where diners pay for the privilege of poor service and being insulted. They have a restaurant like that in New York or something like that where they like pay to insult you. I'm like, I'd insult the fucking waiter back. I could come up with some good ones, you know, that, you know, I'd first start off with, flying kites up their ass sideways. I'd have to British my saying up a little bit, like, could put a parasol up your bum. Do a side slip with a parasol up your bum or something like that. Oh man, Karen restaurant. I know one person named Karen. I don't know I don't know if that she's a Karen per se. That just doesn't seem to be that popular of a name. Well, it certainly isn't now. But I said Susan. Susan was the name. There was kids my age named Susan, and then after that, I think 10 years after me, I didn't name any more kids Susan. I think it's just a whole lazy Susan thing just took off. I'm like, I don't want my kid to be referred to as lazy. Well, well, then don't sit on a damn turntable and don't do anything. Sit around a turntable going around in circles. Lazy ass Susan. You guys have another name for that over there across the pond. I forget who told me it's that thing. Came across a cyclist on the local motorway a little while back. Fella had a death wish for sure. Yeah, it just, you know, my dad had a couple of co-workers that he's a professor at the university. And one of his co-workers, when he was a professor at the university, only did that for, I think, 4 or 5 years. He didn't want to deal with the politics anymore. I don't blame him. But one of his PhD colleagues or something like that was big into biking, and he was out. That guy and that guy's son were out cycling together on a road that's not meant for cyclists. A road that's made for cyclists is called a fucking sidewalk. Okay, and they got run over. That was before. I think that was before cell phones really took off. People are on their phones all the time. They're zombies, man. Mix that up with all the marijuana everybody seems to be on or wants to be on, and you got a bunch of fucking zombies. You're gonna go out there and get killed, for no good reason, and not take anybody with you. Been listening to The Pirates by George MacDonald Fraser on my dog walks. It's full of British Monty Python style humor. You might like it. I do like Monty Python style humor. My only problem with Monty Python, and it's not much of a problem, is that sometimes it's so fast but I watch everything with subtitles, and I've listened to those guys enough that it's like watching Faulty Towers. You can't watch Faulty Towers without subtitles. It's too fast. It's too fast, but I like that eccentric shit, People turning the tape over to side B. Must have cleaned a few. Or rewinding that freaking thing in the teeth. Oh, shit, Technology should make your life easier, not create more problems for you. Like, I don't know how to check my email when I'm not at work. I don't want to. Because the next thing you know, then you're doing, you have more shit put on top of you. Like, do I use my phone for work? Yeah. But I only contact people that I'm their customer, and if I need to. So that if I don't want them calling me, I just tell them, don't call my cell phone. If you're using it for your customers, you can't do that. Because then you're like, how come you're not? Because it's not a company cell phone. It's my own personal cell phone. It's just like, I need to tell you something when I'm out in the out in the back somewhere at work, and I don't want to come back in to call you. I'll just call you from here, but I don't. And I learned early on, like really, I've been there 30 freaking years before people had cell phones. I realized this is going to be basically, it's a crutch for people that don't plan, So if you're reachable all the time, then people that want to change their mind about things, feel like they can change their mind at the last minute and you have to just deal with it. So I'm like, no, I'm not going down that road. Next thing you know, you're working 24/7. You might as well have your own freaking business, you know? So, all right, let's get these freaking tanks the hell out of here. And then we'll bring out the stuff you guys wanted to see this morning anyways. A couple things came in the mail. I had to ship this thing, had to mail order this stuff because they don't carry it here in town. So I've ordered from these people before in North Dakota. Who the hell lives in North Dakota? More dark green shrubs. Not that I don't have any tufts, but I want to kind of keep going with the motif that I had. Because I was down, I was nearly out. So we needed that for the tanks. That was one of the reasons I hadn't based them yet. I was low on that stuff. All right, let's clear us a spot here. And the other thing that I finally got out and got it, you guys better be sitting down when you see this. Although I haven't used it yet, so there's still hope. I actually bought a cutting mat to actually cut on. Yeah, I really wanted to get this to work with green stuff and like be able to cut on it and not, the green stuff actually picks up some of this fiber, so it doesn't work really well. But this is $4.50. I figured, yeah, I can probably handle doing that. And one thing you may not be aware of, cutting mats, unlike everything else that comes to us that we buy, comes from China. Cutting mats, for whatever reason, a high percent, I think mine's Canadian, but Canada has a lot of them, and Taiwan. You know, everything else made in Hobby Lobby comes from frickin' China, except this. This is made in Taiwan, so I haven't decided to use this yet, but I don't mind throwing away $4.50. It's very, actually, it's funny. They had a smaller one that came with an X-Acto knife, and it was $1 more. I'm like, no, we'll just use this size. I really wanted it half this size, just a little thing over here to work on it. But I guess if I really want to, I could cut this and make 2 of them out of it. You know, I can deal with destroying $4.50 worth of something, but anything more than that, I just don't want to do it. I wish it had metric measurement on it. Does it? Or is that stupid inches? Inches are stupid. Actually, the inches are fine. It's just the dividing by 12. Okay, I'm going to take all this. I think I can fit all these guys on here. And just get them the hell out of here. Because we need all this space for what's coming next. We'll call this the wearaboo side. Hey, I'm just going with the flow. I've heard that's what it's called. I haven't seen any of what exactly a wearaboo is. We'll move them by themselves. Okay. All right. Now, because really the tanks, I'm probably not going to do any tanks for a while. We're going to go all buildings all the time. This thing turned out so well. I'm so happy with how that turned out that I decided to go ahead and pull my other ones out that I've also had for 30 years. And I guess we need to, let's just move these guys over here. I mean, we need all this space. We need, this is, I think we can get away with not moving those. The rest of this is just super encroachy, because that's a small building. And I didn't follow my own rules, and I ordered more. I wanted to get them before I couldn't get a hold of them anymore. Noble Knight was selling 5, or actually 6 of them. They had another one of these. I didn't pick it up. Relatively inexpensive. So I decided to prime these things that I had for a long time. And they're actually hard to figure out how to put it together. These used to be made by Queen's Hussars. They're now listed on a company called Lancer's Miniatures. And I spray painted these the other day and missed a whole lot of spots and didn't realize I did. Now the lighting isn't as good there as it is here, but we're going to hand paint the stuff that I missed. Like there's lots of stuff here that's missing, so we're going to come in and hand paint that. We're going to epoxy these pieces down, so this will be ready to go, and then we're going to pick one of them and I guess start painting it. You know, probably the one that's all brick, although it's funny because the fit and finish on this one's pretty poor. I don't know if you can tell this. Let's see if I can do this without tilting the stand over. This one sits, this hovel sits very, very flat. I'm going to put it on a base. Just so it's got, you know, a bottom floor. It won't be attached to the bottom floor, but it's pretty flat. This one's pretty flat too, as you can tell by the sidewalk here. But it curves up here a little bit. There's a little bit of a gap. You know, it is what it is. Actually, I can push it down and the gap's gone. Mind the gap. And so this one's not bad. This one, however, has a rocks here, and it really rocks here. I mean, it doesn't even fit right. It's just, it is what it is. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's just, I've just figured I'd comment on that. So, yeah, and it really doesn't fit here. But yeah, it'll be fine. You know, just figured I'd comment on that if you're wondering. It has really good detail. But the ones I'm coming that I'm getting are the Hovels ones, only because they had them in stock there. But yeah, man, I take my contacts out. I see all kinds of imperfections and stuff. Okay, so we need to glue this. This goes on one of the corners, which is that there. That's that corner there. And then this is the wall that goes on this one. Okay, and then there's one that's for the staircase here. I need to find out where the hell that one went to. But there's a lot of, I mean, you could have a whole game just on the bottom floor. I mean, it's like a freaking dungeon. You know, you got a staircase here that somehow there's a way to get back down to here. I don't know where it is. There's an opening here in the wall between the two basements. I guess you'd call it the basement. This would be, I guess technically would be the level 1. I think this will look pretty darn good. Especially since I saw what I was able to do with this in relatively little amount of time. So we need to glue this. We need to grab the 3 things that we need to epoxy and take care of that before we go any further. I do like GMAC-F's Flashman series. Provides inspiration for scenarios for In Her Majesty's Name. All right, I'm going to... Flashman. That sounds like a... He doesn't ride with Condor Man, does he? Thankfully, I don't remember that, but I do remember it, but I don't remember it. I remember it when it was advertised, but I'm glad I don't remember a lot from the 70s, man. People wore some weird stuff in the 70s. I pulled a whole set of little notepads out. Damn it, man. All right, this will have to do. All right, let's write some notes here, stuff to look up. GMAC-F's Flashman. What the heck? There's a rapper. G-Mac. God, this disappears on me. G-Mac-F. G-Mac-F Flashman. Inspiration for scenarios for In Her Majesty's Name. Totally would like that, I bet. Well, we'll check it out. I read some of them in the 70s, but I recently started reading them again as I picked up all 12. G-Man, Flashman. Okay. George MacDonald Fraser. All right, we better write that down. Really? 3 names? I thought only my ancestors did stupid stuff like that. What was his name? George MacDonald Fraser. George MacDonald Fraser. Excellent. Okay, so this goes on the corner. This is, oh, I wasn't saying this earlier. This is the I'm gonna find myself up my own ass here. And I don't mean that in a good way. This one glues there, and then these two go on this side. All right, so let's move this block. I've seen somebody use these buildings in Russia, like a Stalingrad thing, and I couldn't find their. I think I'm going to make them non-denominational, even though this is obviously like a road sign here. This is like, you know, it looks like something would be a road sign. We're just gonna. I don't know what we're going to do with that, but. All right, so we're going to mix up some epoxy, and we're going to glue up this staircase right here. And the thing is it broke, but they're clean. They're really clean breaks. Really clean breaks. So let's get more of Mr. and Mrs. Epoxy. My daughter wants to finish watching that show she started watching, with that movie she started watching with me. She wanted to see it. Whatever it's called, League of Ungentlemanly Warfare or whatever. Some Guy Ritchie thing on there. It has annoying things in it. I just don't like Second World War stuff that puts it in a different period. I don't want to hear AC/DC when I'm, you know, watching a World War II thing. You know, I don't want to hear hippie music, you know. Anyways, it's not horrible. It's not good, but it's not horrible. So I got to finish watching that for her sake. I finally did get around to seeing the last Bond movie, which I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it was. Not that I liked it. Although it wasn't very memorable. I just don't like whatever that guy's name is. That guy from Egypt. I just don't like him. He's very distracting. But that's most movies have a shitty villain. Somebody should have never been cast as a villain. Most movies have that. And I think if you're a fan of the Bond genre or the Bond movies, we all have a favorite Bond that we grew up with. That just it doesn't matter what everybody else's opinion is on it. Unless you have several of them that you happen to like. You know, I'm a member of a couple of those things, and people just get in pissing matches with each other. It's like, hey, it just depends on how you grew up and when you grew up and that kind of stuff. But I am floored. I'm actually floored. I'm that. Hold on, before I get into this, go down the rabbit hole here. Something different than tanks this time. Yeah. Yep. Buildings. Got to do buildings. I grew up with Roger Moore, so Roger Moore is my guy. With that said, I like Sean Connery. Now, I have no problem with Sean Connery, but I don't understand why people like Goldfinger so much. First of all, his henchman sucks. He's a bloody tosser, as you guys would say. A hat tossing guy. He's a shitty villain. I just don't like the plot. It's not terrible. I don't understand why it's everybody's favorite one. I'm like, and I've read why. Oh, it's the one with the gadgets and this and has all this. It's just a stupid plot. I don't care for it. You know. He's playing golf with a freaking villain. I mean, how villainous is he if he's playing if he allows you to play golf with him, catches you cheating and then doesn't do anything about it? Yeah, not very villainous. I just don't understand why Goldfinger is so many people's favorite one. But I actually fell asleep. I was telling you, we made it all the way through. How far did we watch? We've seen one of I've seen them all except like, shit, probably only two movies at this point. Yeah, I haven't seen Quantum of Solace and I haven't seen Goldeneye. I think that's the only two I haven't seen. And I and we were watching them together, my brother, my mom, and myself, all the way through in order. And I fell asleep in From Russia with Love. I thought it was boring. I was expecting the first one to be more boring than it was, and it wasn't great, but the second one, I was bored. Now I thought Thunderball was actually pretty good and might have had something to do with the girls that were in it. Not gonna lie to you. But am I missing a piece? Is there still a piece to no, there's a piece that goes it goes with the other one. Got it. Right. Right. We'll call it Joel. Let's go and put this somewhere that epoxy is not going to stick onto. Yeah, good luck with that. Let me put a little shim underneath this, and we'll come back and revisit this thing. God, this stuff is so heavy. Okay. Oh shit. I picked it up like this and it's not connected to the bottom. That could have been bad. yeah, people are super opinionated about the Bond actors and the Bond movies, and it just depends on when you grew up, you know. I found the worst one by far is Lazenby, and he's actually not that bad. I just Telly Savalas is just does not make a good villain. He's too likable. I think he's too likable. I don't know. I grew up watching those movies. I grew up watching those movies when they were on TV. So when I started putting them on TV, the newest movies had Roger Moore in it. So that's what I grew up with as it. I, I don't mind some of the other people. It's just my preference would, and that's everybody. Some people like the old ones because they grew up with those. Now I don't know if this is going to be that that crack might actually show, and if so, we'll put some ivy or some shit over it. Now, some of this requires touching up with black paint with this that Mr. Airbrush didn't get to. So I'm going to have to get on with that. So, taking one piece at a time, let's see where we start. And this, if you guys watched my airbrushing thing the other day, I mean, my hands look like a chimney sweep when I was done with this stuff. They were bad. They were really, really bad. All right, let's get something white here, or something, even one of these clear cups should work fine to pour this stuff into. Although these things are pretty light and they could tip over, so I'm not sure I want to do that. I'd almost rather have something that doesn't have a side to it that doesn't tip over. Let's see what we got down here. Certainly we have something that should be able to work. Let's see. What have we here? This will work just fine. It's got a little bit of a rim. Let's see if we can take this stuff off, because this is causing a seal to be an issue. Here we go. Bye-bye, you crustacean. Anything else? Keep this thing from closing properly. We're almost out of this one, which is kind of a shame because I really like having two of these. So I might order another one so I can keep one in the garage and one here. It's super handy. I don't trust this thing. Let's go ahead and close this. Yeah, we're going to need that much. For sure, for sure. All right, let's get a brush of unusual size. Ooh, it scared me for a second there. That one's too big. These are all detail ones. This will probably work. All right, same thing. We're going to try and knock it out by sections. This section, let's get a little bit there in the recesses. Okay, this one's done. What's that one? That has the wall. We're going to ignore painting the wall for now. I'm ignoring painting this also. Okay, corners look good. Around the outside, we're going to ignore this area until that's nice and glued. Let's put a little bit around this door. That's the one place that we want the black paint on really well, is the corners, is these little recesses. That's where it's going to stay. I never finished the French farmhouse. I mean, it's almost done. Yeah, this didn't get a good spray on it. I should be putting this on thin enough that I should start being able to do brickwork on one of these this morning. I didn't miss that much stuff, but the lighting's pretty good in the garage, but it's better in here, and I got my contacts out, so we can really, it's really hard to get these things to hide from you then. And this stuff covers so much better than black paint. And no, I didn't wash this before I painted it. That would be, I have to take this thing into the tub with me. Just try to avoid grabbing that and then transferring this paint everywhere. Put the inside of that courtyard. No, we're good? All right. Yeah, I really got a big boost of confidence when I did this other building, and I'm like, I don't know how the inside is going to turn out. And then it turned out like fabulous, and I'm like, oh yeah. I think I want the destroyed buildings more than the ones that are in good shape. I was concerned, and I was like, well, that turned out really well. Like I've said before, sometimes you just got to jump in and paint your way out. There's not much, and then if I do miss something, it's not likely it's going to be noticeable. The inside of this door. But I think it's pretty, how we doing on this wall? still sticky, yeah, we'll come back to it. There's not that much of a sense of urgency to it. It's more valuable for me to paint in black, to prime in black, and then have some places that would already benefit from a built-in black wash than having to black wash everything. You know, I still ended up adding some Nuln oil to some of the corners on the other building. That actually made a big difference. I probably wouldn't have done that 2 years ago had I not done these tanks. The whole point is I want it to look consistent. I want it to look like the same person that painted the tanks painted the buildings. Not, have these tanks look great and the buildings just don't have any depth to them. But that's just my own personal choice. My own ridiculous rules that I put upon myself. Okay, we're gonna come back to that. Okay, make sure that's nice and dry. That was actually the first piece that broke of all of them. It broke a while ago. All right, let's see. Where can I put this? I'm gonna put it down here on the floor on this rubber mat. Okay, continue with the same building. Let's go upward. So these are still listed by a company called Lancer's Miniatures, but it doesn't seem like they're on their website. It's kind of strange. I'm gonna go grab myself a soda. Are we finished with this? Yeah. This is gonna look superb. I'm confident in it. After doing the one building, I'm like, yeah, we got this shit down. And how mindless it was. Now, it's deep. Take this out like a puzzle. You got this roof section. All kinds of stuff in here. And there's still more. That's a lot of parts to this. Unfortunately, it seems to scrape up this paint when I take it in and out. Well, might just have to do touch-ups along the way. Let's get in here and see what we got. But this has actually a lot of casting imperfections in here. Let's see if I can show you some of it. These corners here, looking for that corner in particular. I don't know if I can get enough light in there. But it's pretty rough cut in there. But I think it works because it's supposed to be damaged. I think if this building was in good shape, this would look a lot out of place. But I mean, it's got a lot of really good detail. I mean, you've got this interior wall here has spackle on it, and there's brick underneath it. I mean, there's a lot of detail that it's pretty fabulous looking. Even though it's, I'm kind of saying that it's rough cut and kind of a poor model in some respects. And in other respects, it's just really, really good looking. It's got a lot of detail that's going to shine out on there nicely. Give this a little bit of a better coverage than it has. And we're just going to paint this in sections. And it's going to take some time. Now, these two buildings that I have here are probably the most useless ones of the ones that I have. They're a little too built up. They're a little too much like a New York brownstone type building. A little too big a city type of thing. Whereas you could find the other one like in a town or something like that. No handrails on any of those steps. I'm not going to build them. It's not that kind of a game. We're not doing an IPMS entry here. All right. Is the inside of this one got everything where I need it to before I move on to something else? Actually did a pretty good job of getting up in the corners. I'd say so. Maybe all right, let's move to this other section. No comments. Everybody's in awe. I know you're working on your own stuff. I get it. I've had these a long time. Before I ever got married. For sure. It's one of those things that I got a good deal on them because it's like the shipping was like really expensive. These were like, I think it's like $100 for both of them together or something like that. Plus shipping, or I don't know, it was like 120. I don't think it was more than $120 for both of them, but my only regret is I didn't take pictures of them unpainted, but and that's because I'm using my phone for filming. Otherwise I would have, but I'm sure I could find pictures of. I'm sure a lot of people have these in their collection. A lot of old school folks. Like, oh, I had those things in the 80s or whatever. I don't know how old these molds are. I suspect that they're pretty early 80s, I would have to guess. All right. We haven't painted anything on the outside, so we can grab by the outside is not where most of the issues are. And there's not that many issues. It's just, I probably could have gone away with not doing this, but for the sake of being complete, let's get a good coverage on here. And I did scrape some of this up, trying to figure out which piece went on each one. Because I had all the interior pieces of both buildings, and I was like, almost like getting really confused as to which one went inside which other one. There we go. We can see a little bit of this lack of primer there. This is one of these things that if I could have done this hand painted, but because this is a slick surface, and I would end up having to add multiple coats of this primer on it. So just airbrushing it saved me a heck of a lot of time. Okay, I think we're good there. Now let's move to the outside, where we got to be careful so we don't paint something and then get it on our fingers and then transfer it somewhere completely different. Oh, we got a comment. I don't get a notification when I see this. I just check them from side to side. You're lucky enough to pick up 3 of those style buildings, complete with basements already painted. Plan to do Berlin 45. Sold them a couple of years ago as I never got around to it. I never thought about it. I guess I could use them for Berlin. I got those Panther turrets, right? Never cared for those Panther turrets, but I think they're good for scenarios, especially if everybody's on one side. You know, like people aren't on the side of the Panther turret. Make everybody play a bunch of communists. Berlin, that's where they had some German tanks that had like a swastika paint on the side of them. Yeah, we won't be doing any of those. That's a bit excessive. Doesn't offend me, it's just unnecessary. And that's permanent, so I'm not going to, I'm not putting any permanent swastikas on any tanks or stuff like that. And then you got problems filming it, you know. Then the bots mess you up. I wouldn't want this thing pre-painted though, and I have to repaint it. Unless somehow somebody painted it exactly the same style that I did. Which is, you know, unlikely. Of course, I could have just doctored it up, you know. It was not available pre-painted. It came, well, this is directly from, well, actually, I don't know who I got this from. It was directly from the manufacturer. It was through Brookhurst Hobbies. Back then, I was ordering a lot of stuff from Brookhurst Hobbies. That was my go-to place. They were the importer in the United States of a lot of these things. Most of these things, actually. In the mid to late 90s. And eventually I don't know what happened with them. Last time I ordered from them, which was a while ago, their service had changed significantly. They had inaccurate stuff on the internet, and they showed that they had things and didn't really have them. Hard to get an answer from them whether they had something in stock. I just don't understand these little niche industries, and then they're like rude to your customers. You know, if you're being rude back to them, yeah. But I know I had contacted, who was it, the Last Square, when they were still around? They were importing a lot of, they were the importer for Roundway. And I asked them if they had these packs, and the guy's like, I don't know. You can order them and see if they come in. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to order, you know, pay for shipping for, you know, 8 items and only get one of them, but I still pay the shipping. You know, can you tell me if you have it in stock? No. I never bought from them, and they went out of business. That's why they went out of business, because I didn't buy from them at one time. I wonder what happened to old John Roberts with Roundway. Hopefully he's doing all right, but he was having health issues even before the COVID debacle. So, and was hard to get a hold of, but it's a shame because the Roundway stuff's really, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Roundway 15mm stuff. interesting. There's like this little sub pattern in this resin that I would have never seen. Okay, I think this one's good. Let's put this next to the other one. I'm always gonna be, what did you do to your room? I said, hey, it's under construction. Under destruction. All right. Co-op games work well for urban games. The team against the environment, a bit like D&D. Yep. I think that's what I'm going to do, you know. I mean, when I invite people over to do this, whenever, I got to know the system by myself. So you guys are going to see some games being filmed where it's just me. You know, because I got to learn the system. I'm just not willing to learn it without being on camera and having some kind of interaction with some other folks. I don't do it to be famous. I do it to stay on track. Interact with, it's a social thing, you know, and see what kind of stuff happens. See what kind of narrative develops in this. But some of these buildings, I mean, you could just have the whole scenario in one building. And just see what it is that I'm going to have to create on the side. Like, maybe this is too small, too encroaching an area, and I want to cut this area maybe out of cardboard, you know, and then that you can place them on here when they're in here instead of taking all the parts in and out of the building. I don't know. I may encounter stuff like that. You know, I think the building is kind of impractical. From a standpoint of taking pieces in and out, especially when you got figures on there. So, might even get a little dry erase board so you can, with a grease pencil, when you get inside the building. I don't know. We'll see. I think we're just going to have to wing it and see what stuff we need so that when we get real people involved in it, the game doesn't drag. You know, it's easy to explain things when you know what the hell you're talking about. If you don't know what the hell you're talking about, if you're not familiar with the system, it's probably better off not getting people involved up until that point. You know, and it probably won't be most people's cup of tea. Most people are going to be like, this is too detailed. Well, okay. We'll invite you next time. You know, I'm doing this for me. The fact that anybody else is interested in this is just a bonus. I'm doing this because there's a story that needs to be told here. That has not been told for decades. Yeah, I'm actually turned out pretty well. And hopefully when we're done with all these pieces, we'll go back and paint that wall. Then we'll do on it. Then we'll touch up the next building. But one of these buildings is more brick than the other. That's the one we're going to do first. Okay, because the other one's going to have some block on it. Then I got to decide what color block I want to use. Which I'm not afraid of doing it, but I'd rather do that after I have all the brickwork done. Because I'm pretty sure how that's going to turn out. It'll be like that. Yep, as you disassembled, saw that the law was needed to be able to remove the entire story to use minis. Removing floors, you can only use a floor, cuts down on the utility. Yeah, I think this is the old way of doing things. I think pretty much everybody does the whole, you know, is segmented, right? And I think that works better. I don't think it's a big deal here on, say, this building, but this other one, I mean, you saw how many floors this thing has. There's a lot going on there. You could have a whole platoon in there. And remember, this is actual scale. So some people are going to get hit by rifle butts and bayoneted in there. That's That's what I want to see. You know, you better be careful where you throw a grenade or you might get caught in it. Well, that is the whole fun of it. You know, you're going to have MP40s and people are going to be swinging them and using them as blunt weapons, especially if they jam. This thing has really good detail. Like, I don't know how old this thing is. Maybe some of you older guys can tell me, but I'm going to guess this is at least from the early 1980s. But there's like, they even made an attempt to put some nail holes here in the floorboards. I mean, they did a good job with this. It's rustic, and there's some parts that are not well cast, you know, but the master, whoever made the master, did a good job with it. They're a master of this. I'm not going to judge the resin casting on them. But whoever made the original one did a pretty good job. Now, one of the buildings I actually ordered from Hovels, I didn't realize why it was so cheap. It's missing a third floor. That's fine. You can add other things to it. You can add, like, let's say you got something like this. And say, I think, want to create something else, just make little things of basswood and put them in there. I think it's I don't think I need to add anything to this one, but one of the other buildings is missing a staircase, so it can be kind of crude looking. You know, I can make it at least as crude as that. Some of the stairs are pretty crude, but okay. Is that it for? Nope, one more. Uno más. The older buildings are not really practical. In my experience, as they are too heavy and very awkward to move in place or move figures. Yeah, but they keep the tablecloth down. I've seen some games when the separate stories have been laid out off table, almost like individual games. Yep, that's the way to go, Jeffrey. Well, we got these because, and then the rest of the stuff's probably going to be 3D printed. But I'm really enjoying doing the buildings, you know, with craft paint. I just have a lot of craft paint. I'm still using the Yeho for the brick. Most of these are mostly brick, but I don't think I'm going to use those. Remember a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago where I built all those paper buildings for Russia? I don't think I'm going to use them. It's just, now those Pegasus Russian buildings are impossible to find. I don't know what the hell's going on with Pegasus. But they have a hard time getting their products out sometimes. And they used to make like 3 or 4 sets of like Russian buildings. They look pretty good. But we can't do Western Europe and Russia. And I'm not really interested in partisan stuff on the Eastern Front. And I think partisans work really well for this type of game. Okay, this is the last interior section. And all I'm doing is I'm laying them down on the ground. You know? So. Let's go grab this wall that didn't get painted. And wonder how many coats it's going to take to cover this thing up. This takes time, you know? Not having to get this done by a certain time period or on a certain day for a certain game is definitely what works for me. When are you going to play your first game? I don't know. Right now, I'm just painting shit. And having fun while doing it. And picking up some new skills along the way. All right, I'm sure we're going to have to repaint over this. This stuff is pretty watery. Okay. So we'll go ahead and put this back where it was. Go get the other building. Oh. Not that great coverage on there. That could be better. That could be better. That's the one part I wanted dark is the gap between all the things, because that's what's going to stay black. And I'm not going to give them a wash where I pretend that there's mortar in there. I don't, my style, I do not like doing a recess in a light color. I just don't like it. It doesn't look right to me. Even though might look realistic, I don't like that look. I don't like recesses in a lighter color than the part that's showing. That's just my stylistic choice. It's counterintuitive. Okay. Still missed another one here. It had a little bit of a coating on it, so it'll grab a lot better. I like this little blowhole. It's a breached wall in there. Okay. Now the other building, the one that does not sit correctly, the one that rocks. Yeah, side table with a floor plan is a good idea. Yeah. I think I'm just going to have to figure out exactly what it is that I need as I go, you know? Yeah. This looks like there was some kind of stained glass window up here that was knocked out. Doesn't it? I mean, hell, this area could just be a little 2 foot by 2. This that I have, this rollout mat, which is rubber and needs to be rolled out, is only 2 foot by 2 foot. And you can have this the battlefield. You know, and I think I'm going to dry brush this and see how it turns out. Flat coat it. I think that's what I'm going to do with it. I've had this a long ass time too. It's time to use these things I have or get rid of them. And for the most part, I like most of the things I have. All right, let's move this off to the side. Oh, another breech wall. Yeah, a lot of this stuff needs a coating on it. Okay, let's just start in one place, say here. And we got a couple windows here where people can shoot out of them. There's a lot of 3D printed buildings out there that look really good that would be nice to supplement this with. Okay, it's back down this wall. Where's the weak spot? Up there? Okay. Try not to put pressure on that corner. We'll have to re-glue that. This stone floor, that would have scared the crap out of me, but I did that French farmhouse and that turned out really well. Give it a brown wash. Freaking bullet holes on the inside of this. Like, What happened in here? What was a shootout when they breached that wall? Okay. For some reason it didn't get in those crevices really well in a few places. Like I said, this takes a little bit of time, but I only have to do it once. If I do it right. Let's go to this one. Well, I fully expect to, when I go out and play this, I'm going to make an 8-foot by 8-foot playing area. I got a big garage. I don't want to leave it permanently set up like a game room, but one thing at a time. I don't want to start, got to build the stuff that makes it merit being able to put the battlefield out there before you put the battlefield. The tables would be the last thing to be bought. Because they're rather expensive, But it won't be one of these, none of this fancy table stuff. I think just collapsible tables would be just fine. I don't think any of the scenarios require a play area larger. Why am I doing the outside? Because I'm not paying attention. Too much freedom. Stop it. Okay. We're doing the inside of this block here. And the lighting in the garage is great. I don't have to add any lights. I probably still will. I'll probably take one of these out here. That might be the time where I got to figure out, okay, how do I do multiple cameras? I may not be able to figure that out. I'm not a tech guy. I mean, this is the shit that I do. I'm not an expert in any of the other stuff, nor do I want to be. I have to get a producer for that. Okay. How are we looking in here? Good. Okay, I think this area is complete. All right, let's move on to this, which I believe is a courtyard, actually. Let's see. Yeah, this is enclosed. This would probably bother me a while ago, but I'm actually all right with it. Yeah, let's do this courtyard area next. I never thought about Berlin. I guess this would work just fine for Berlin. And you can use for those panther turrets. Have the two buildings, and then at the end of one of the rows, there's that damn turret. The panther turrets have machine guns in it too. Do they have a coax machine gun? Seems like they would. Well, you have no point defense. And this covers so much better if I was just using like black craft paint or something like that. Or spray paint. Spray paint, I would have missed even more stuff and then gotten extra paint in places self-leveling. And covered up some of this decal. I'm glad I poured this stuff out on the Pringles lid. Saved me a lot of time stopping what I'm doing, pouring more material on there. This process is taking long enough as it is. We certainly don't need to make it take even longer. We're here to accomplish things. Sounds like a big table to lean over. DBA on 8x. No cussing. No more DBA. Mitch is still playing. He was tied down to the DBA area the whole convention. Still didn't get enough players worth a damn. Now they got people playing Arc de la Guerre. They won't be playing that in 4 or 5 years. I think got tired of playing something vaguish. Make another DBA 4x4, 4 looks great. Miniature dioramas on each base. My hoplite Greek phalanxes look fantastic. Just before I stopped playing DBA, started working on some modifications to make it still the same size game, because the size of the units I think is what is attractive to me. But it's just too difficult with my workload, and it was too difficult trying to do it on a really busy day of the week and not knowing who's going to be able to be there at playtest. It was way too much chaos, and I have way too much chaos in my workload, so it just became really something I didn't want to get involved in. I really started dreading it, and it was really most of it was couldn't tell who was going to be there. I mean, I knew I was going to be there. I knew Mitch was going to be there, and it really didn't matter who was there, as long as it was people that like if you went and today we're going to practice how to improve something, and then we did that, and everybody agreed, and that it was. Oh, hold on 1 second. Yeah, so it just became too difficult to just do that. I'd basically given up at that point. Once we had the Historicon that nobody showed up for, I'm like, all right, I don't mind playing DBA, but let's start making these changes that we all agree with that don't make any sense, and to make the game better. But then it just became too difficult. Work got too difficult. It was too difficult to figure out who was going to show up there to play and bring them up to speed. And it was just like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do that. I can't do this and be not retired. So And I want a game system where I don't have to explain shit to people. You can explain it as it happens, but spending some amount of time before you start playing the game, bringing everybody up to speed, is just a waste. It's a waste of my time, you know. So just start playing. This is what you need to do, and you'll figure it out as you go. You can ask questions as you go. This is a game to develop a narrative, not necessarily to beat somebody. You know, I mean, you're always going to be competitive, but it's just not that kind of. It's not that kind of thing. You know. All right, could we do this last wall here? Yes. And I've had no regrets. I've had no regrets making that decision. It was definitely the right decision. It was either that or quit my job, and well, I need the job, unfortunately. But the playtesting was working okay. I mean, we're making some progress. I mean, shit, playing every week could eventually done something, but not to publish it or anything. I'm not interested in. I'm not doing this for the money. It's not. I do things I don't want to do for money, which of course means I don't want to do unpleasant things for free. If it becomes unpleasant, I'm not doing it anymore. I do like it when I see people that do their hobby. I'm interested in doing a, what do you call that thing? A Patreon. I mean, if you want to do that kind of thing, that's fine. But I like it when I see people that they get involved in a podcast or doing something and they just do it for the love of their hobby. It's just a way of giving back. We've all taken from the internet, whether it's motivation from other people. And, if I like the idea that there's people that are willing out there to inspire other folks and they don't want people to pay for it. And they're not interested in people if people pay for it. The fact that other people want to do it for money, that's fine. That's just not my interest. Yeah, if I was doing things for the money, I'd still be playing DBA. It was generating not a significant amount, but it was generating a lot more revenue. I'm not interested in the revenue. I'd rather take it than not take it because it's just stuff I'm going to put into the hobby and do unboxings for you guys. And it's a way to give back even more. But I'm not poo-pooing anybody who does that. That's just not my thing. Honestly, I don't like the way Patreon works. It's too confusing. It's too confusing for me. And you don't get to check out what it is before you get it. You want donated tip? That's cool. I don't expect you to. I really don't even want people doing it because I don't want people to feel like that gives them a voice to tell me what I'm going to do next. And I'm not saying that I don't want to take your guys' suggestions. I'm just saying that the number one thing for me is to not get burned out. So anything that could potentially cause burnout is very, very bad. And when you start getting pulled in multiple different directions, which is something I really dislike on a multiple basis, on a daily basis for me, it's probably the most frustrating thing for me on a daily basis is to get it pulled into. You come in with somebody's got a question and bring a problem you got to solve, and before that one's even solved, people brought three other ones and they want to get in on top of each other. I'm like, no, that's just complete chaos. So anything that even remotely resembles that kind of stuff on on my free time, so to speak, I am just dead set against. It'll just burn me out. I had a guy, we were playing a DBA game, and this one guy who is a notorious question ask, I guess he would be considered an asshole. You know, he stops the game, asks a question, and while you're explaining that answer to him, he's already asking another question. I'm like, look, you're the guy that's interested. You should show some interest in the question that's being answered to you that you asked. Don't be an asshole. But luckily, most people aren't like that. But this guy in particular was. And I don't have to deal with him anymore. I don't play DBA. You know? And I really haven't had, other than like 2 or 3 people in hundreds, I would say maybe even 1,000, but I don't think I played 1,000 people. But I've certainly played hundreds of different people. Only like 3, and really only 2, do I never ever want to play a game against. And they're just people that just have bad attitudes. And like there's no place for that on the game table. I'm just not interested in playing people with a bad attitude. You know, you're allowed to get frustrated, but you're not allowed to, take this shit personal. I mean, there's die rolls involved that none of us can control. You know, so. Oh, I miss your and Mitch's DBA games. I'm glad you're doing what you're loving. I enjoy watching you paint Dirt World 2 as my day winds down. Well, I'm glad it's doing you some good, man. Have had burnout painting figures, had to leave it for 6 months or so before starting again. Look forward we can finally see this game in action. You will. You will. Just give me time. I don't know if you were here the other day. My goal, and like I said, I don't see things and I get discouraged. I see things in this hobby anyways. I see things and I'm like, if those fuckers can have this, why can't I? So you look at a wonderful magazine like War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy, right? I love the fact that you can download this stuff and then print just what you want. And there's people across the pond. It's always across the pond, seems like it. And they're playing games that look like this. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm going to play games that look like this. Because some blokes are out there playing this stuff. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's just picture fakery, right? But if they can play it, why the hell can't I? So what does it mean? It means I got to build some stuff. That's okay. It's therapeutic doing this stuff, And it's not like you use it one time and you put bottle rockets in it and you blow it up. You'll be able to add on to it and, use it. I mean, look at this stuff. Like, who would want to do this? So you look at all these war game magazines and, and I'm tired of not playing games that look like this. I go to Historicon and it's rare. It's rare that I see a game that makes me salivate. Why don't I get to play games that look like that? Well, you can't wait around for somebody else to do it. I mean, I have to move to the UK and then get in with the right game group that does stuff like this. And then maybe they play something unsatisfying like Rapid Fire. So we're going to do it. You just got to start small. And I got the rule book, and the rule book is thick as shit, but it's also coated in plastic, and a lot of this stuff just doesn't come into play. But I need to get a good grasp on how it runs relatively flawlessly before I can introduce it to other people. And I looked at it the other day, and first time in like 20 years, and I'm like, okay, this isn't bad. This is all logic. It's none of this abstraction stuff. This abstracted games where you're like, how many angels on the head of a pin type questions. It has none of that. And I love Phil Barker. I really do. But I'm tired of being tortured by his well, what does he mean by this? And part of it is that you're playing a tournament game where you can't, I feel like you can't make your own judgment calls on it because you're going to have to play with other people that aren't part of your group. So you kind of have to play them as kind of an agreed rules interpretation. And it's just really frustrating when you keep having the same problem crop up again and again and again and again. But I'm not an abstract thinker. I'm not good at abstract math. I'm good at math. I'm just not good at abstract math. My brain just doesn't think that way. You know? Just like some people might be like, oh, why are you putting all this attention to detail? Because that's how we're not all made the same. So I've never played something abstract. And I'm a percentile guy. And that's how I'm used to playing games. I grew up playing percentile games. It's what makes sense to me. 2D6 games, I don't want to play 2D6 games. The bell curve games, 1D6, it worked okay because of opposing rolls. Imagine if DBA didn't have opposing rolls. I wouldn't play that shit. There's just not enough different chances of things happening with a D6. It's the opposing rolls that really kind of gets people committed to everything else. Now, the thing that made DBA better than anything else I'd ever played before is that both people are invested in the game completely. Like one guy can't roll. You can't be like, roll for me and tell me what happens. You can't. You got to be there to roll the opposing die roll. That's like brilliant from the standpoint of not creating apathy. Apathy is one of the worst things you can have in a war game. Like, I'm gonna go make some coffee. Tell me what happened. That's bad. That's like, you might as well be playing a solo game. Now, DBA has none of that. So there's a lot of really good things about it, and there's a lot of things that in my journey, having gone through that was actually beneficial. Like, I would have been one of these nutnicks, like there are in many games that they want to play. Oh, I want to play a skirmish game, but I also want to command a whole company. You're not making those decisions. As a company commander, you shouldn't be figuring out where people are moving in a room. So if you want where you're moving in a room detail, which I do, because it creates a narrative that you're not going to see anywhere else except in war movies that have slow motion sequences. You're going to see it in the slow motion sequences in Saving Private Ryan or in the special effects on the T-34 movie. Other than that, you're not going to see that kind of detail of where the grenade lands and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in seeing that kind of narrative develop, almost role-playing like narrative develop, then you need to be in command of less folks, or you're never going to get through everything. So the scenario that has the vehicles really slow things down. But the scenario that I'm building for that has these vehicles, which actually these buildings aren't really, well, I shouldn't say these buildings aren't a part of it. It requires some rebel buildings, and I guess these could probably work as them. Maybe not these, certainly that one. It's just vehicles. It just has vehicles on it. So I think that's doable. But I don't want to get bogged down in like, well, we need dismounted vehicle crews in case they bail out. I'm like, we'll use pennies if they bail out. And if I realize that in using vehicles, you need to have at least half of the crews represented because they're going to survive and you need them on foot, then yeah, then we'll worry about painting vehicle crews. But let's just take it one step at a time and figure things out as we go. But I'll admit, it's a totally different tack that most of you guys have ever even seen. Just think of it as a role-playing game where you're not acting stuff out, because that's just creepy. And no LARPing. But it's a role-playing game. You're role-playing the assistant squad leader or the group of a fire team. You're playing some French resistance fighters and you got 3 people. That's it. So it's important when somebody dies. It could be a third of your force. Okay, this looks good. I'm not going to touch this edge here because that's how I'm going to get this stuff and transfer it other places. Take black paint and then, you know, who knows where it ends up. I always thought it's funny, people put thousands of hours into miniature painting and play on tables covered by only like felt cutout shapes. Put the same energy in your terrain. Yep. For fuck's sake. Yep. I always think it's funny that people put thousands of miniatures out and spend a lot of time on them, and then they play a game where it's like, okay, odd or even, this guy dies. Like, the game has to have the kind of detail that I put into the figures, or I just don't want to do it, you know? And I'm not going to just like hammer stuff. Are brilliant. I mean, I don't care for their business practices, but the reality is it doesn't matter what Games Workshop business practices are, whether I'm compatible with them or not. They have a game system that just doesn't appeal to me. You know, it's not. I'm not interested in fantasy. I'm not interested in science fiction. It doesn't really appeal to me. But at the end of the day, the people that paint their stuff and put their stuff in catalogs are masters of their craft. There's no doubt about that. They spend a lot of time painting these figures for a game that's extremely vague, extremely vague. You know, one figure is not really that much different from another one, yet they put a lot of care and effort into making them different, and it's not rewarded in the game system. You know, you got these Space Marines. People put a lot of effort in these Space Marines, and you know, and the game is like super condensed. You know, you got this vehicle that's half as big as this building block, and only fires like 2 feet away. Like, it's just weird. It's not for me. You know, if it gets people into gaming, cool. You know, but it just doesn't interest me. Like, we were talking about the convention last time, and last time I was at the convention, it was like I played a game of what's Richard Borg's game? Command and Colors. Okay, Command and Colors is a fine game. It does not, when I'm done playing Command and Colors, it does not motivate me to read about the period. So in that respect, for me, it's a fail. If I play a history game, and it does not want me to read more about the period I just played in, either before or afterwards, that's not something that captivates me. And that's just me. I'm sure I'm the exception. Some people don't care. It's just a game for them. You know? Like, Command and Colors is a fine game. It does not feel like I'm playing something that we played a Blenheim, I think is what it was. I don't read about Blenheim. The game's too like generic-y. It's a good game, just generic-y. It'd be like playing Axis and Allies to read more about World War II. Well, it's even more generic-y than Axis and Allies, I think. But that's not what I want out of the experience. And I'm probably not the typical in that respect, but like I said, we got to keep the motivation engine rolling. You know? I'm not going to paint hundreds of figures for a game that's vaguey. You know, I'm actually surprised that I got as much stuff painted for DBA that I did, but it was fun. It was fun learning about history along the way. Some stuff that I probably would have never learned about. Okay, I think this bottom floor can be considered done. Okay, I need to put these things separate on the floor. I'm going to mix them. And normally it'd be like, it's easy to tell them apart. I had trouble putting them together. When I went and primed all this stuff, I was surprised that it was a little confusing. It was a bit confusing. Berlin, I would have thought about that. That's good. That's a good suggestion to use these for Berlin. The game that comes close, if I had no interest in creating my own rules, which I don't have time to do, and I hadn't come across these Face of Battle rules, I probably would have gravitated to Chain of Command. But I'd have to modify Chain of Command because it's just too... You have too many choices you shouldn't have. Like basically you shoot at a bunch of figures and only special figures and commanders matter. I'm like, look, regular riflemen matter too. I mean, maybe one guy's better at shooting than the other guy. One guy's got a better morale, you know? Maybe not. Maybe they all start the same, and the next time you play another battle, one guy that did more checks, he goes up in morale a little bit. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see, not just, you know, you shot at these guys, okay, take one figure that's not special. Like, that's just... You should, like, at least randomize which guy it is, you know, like, oh, Franco died instead of, you know, Williams, you know? That stuff's important to me. Otherwise, you might as well just play with Airfix figures and not even paint them. Which I guess is fine if that's what you want to do, but... I've never really been a fan of playing games where you just purchase shit and then you play. Like that's geared too much towards the consumers and not enough towards the artist. Anybody can be a consumer. Anybody can buy stuff or collect things. Why did I start painting outside? Because I'm an idiot. All right, next question. Yeah, see this one, I'm talking about separate cutouts. Let's take this. These really are really cool models. They may be impractical, but they're really cool models. Like for instance, all right. So the main steps are here, right? The main steps in the front are here to how you get into the building. Once you get into this room, there's a doorway here that's attached to this. This is all one solid piece of resin. That's why this thing's so darn heavy. There's one doorway here that's a single one and a double one here. Here's the stairs that lead up to this area. But now, where do these double doors lead? What do they lead to? Well, there's a window down here, and we're going to paint it like it's open. Okay, it's a window under the stairs. So this door has got to lead somewhere into this stairs. It's not going to be like, well, it's there and you can't get in there. Like, no, this isn't that type of a game. Okay, and there's a door here that I'm sidetracking myself, but this is why this is so cool. If you look at this, let's put this in the right place. Okay, this doorway, you got a couple of doorways that are here. There's a stairway here. So this small door that's here basically almost looks like it's in a chimney, which it's not, leads to this. And then you have the staircase that gets you onto this lower level, which you can go down. You can either go this way, which there's no access between these two. And then when you get to this other area over here, it doesn't look like there's an access to it as well. But there is another room in here. Oh, yeah, there is. There's a entrance to a room here. This is all solid as well. And there's a staircase that's very crude to get up to this level. So there's all kinds of little nooks and crannies that can certainly make the combat quite interesting in there. I have a feeling that if you show up with a rifle, you better have bayonet installed because you're probably going to be using that a lot more than your rifle. It's just a totally different type of experience. It's going to provide a totally, completely different narrative than most people are going to encounter in a war game. Certainly a World War II war game. And it's going to make you give a shit more about things that you don't normally give a shit. Now it's interesting because this floor here, to get onto this staircase, which eventually leads to there's a roof here. There's an opening for the roof, right? It sits up here, right? And here's the door for it. It leads from this staircase. This staircase is blown here. There's nothing here. So I'm probably going to create some rudimentary little plank thing. And it may be really small. So you can go up this staircase and then go up here and then go up onto the roof. Because there's no point in having an actual opening on the freaking roof for a sniper. I mean, this is asking for a sniper to be up there and not be able to get to him, or he can't get down, So that's like, and I don't think there's a mid floor there. I don't know. So anyhow, just little things like that. You literally have a whole game inside this building. Again, totally different narrative than you would normally see in something else. Totally different experience you see in something else. Vehicles got no business being in this environment. It gives the infantryman with a grenade or a Molotov cocktail and a chance against a Stug or something like that in an urban type environment like this. It's not like, oh, we'll just shell you from 100 yards, 500 yards away, and there's just nothing you can do. You just sit there and take it. Well, we've all played games like that, and honestly, they just kind of fall flat. For me. And I don't mind the 1 to 5 scale games and the scale that Rapid Fire is done in, but it just doesn't motivate me to paint tanks, to play a game as big as Rapid Fire. Now, on top of everything is D6. Like, I still play Command Decision if that was my 2 choices. So, but getting back to what you were saying about felt, I don't know whether that's just laziness or just practicality because you're taking your game on the go. Yeah, I don't want to use any felt. Now, the only bad thing I can foresee about playing this in the garage is, unlike those photos that you see in War Game Soldiers and Strategy, you're going to see that there's like a background or something like that. You can't really do that on a battlefield. It's going to be like a battlefield, and then there's going to be, stuff that's in a garage around you. There's just no way to prevent that. But barring that, yeah, it should pretty much look like the frickin' magazine. I'm telling you, I'm guessing there's actually people that play with stuff that look like that, and I'm freaking envious of them. And I don't know why I don't get to play it. Like I'm old and I'm creating this shit. That's my motivation. That's my motivation, is to have something that is inspiring for me and maybe others. But it's going to take time. It doesn't get done. You don't just spray paint this and, have a blessed day. You just don't buy a shit that's already made. It's going to take some effort. And luckily, doing this is extremely therapeutic. Like, when I'm done with this, even though I spent a couple of hours with you, those days where I've spent hours with you guys, I come back done and I'm refreshed. I feel like I got something accomplished, even if I didn't finish it, So, the journey has value. But you got to realize you're not going to get it all done in one afternoon. Just like you can't binge watch the whole miniseries, you know? Now, which one of these is mostly brick? I think it's this one, which means this would be the first one painted, not the other one. All right, let's look at this room in detail. Let's get some more blackness up in here. But like one thing I'm not going to get into and would be really useful would be 3D printing. I'm not getting into that. I'll buy 3D printed stuff. I'm not getting involved in that. That is a good way to make me wish I was still doing DBA. Just fighting with the printer. I'm just not going to fight with a printer. I don't mind doing this. I don't care how long this takes. This is all going to be a win at the end. Spending 4 or 5 hours trying to tinker with a printer is just a miserable experience. It's a miserable experience for me and everybody I'm going to that I live with. I guarantee they're going to be like, you need to find another hobby. Yep. I don't do this to get frustrated. Okay, now we're almost done. This thing has a bow in it. And it's funny, it's bowed up. Like there was a gas, maybe that's what it was. There was a gas explosion. You know. The building's got indigestion. Well, it's got something with all that damage that it took. And I don't know what the hell they made the original out of. But even for all its imperfections, the guy that did this, I assume it was a guy. Did a really good job with it. Whoever made the originals. All right, when I finish this, I'm going to take a little bathroom break and I'll be right back. But I'm not sure what we're going to do next. Probably finish up the vehicle since they're kind of in the way. I need this stuff to dry well to be able to do the brickwork. Okay. As promised, I will be right back in a few. Okay, well, it took a little bit longer than I expected. It is my daughter's birthday today, so got sidetracked on a little stuff. She's still asleep, but okay. Where does that leave us? Let's go back to the. Well, the logical thing would be to go ahead and do the Yog Tiger. Let's get another coverage on here. Let's see what we got. We're done with this. We're done with that for a while. Good morning, Justin. Let's take this. We don't need a whole lot. We just need a dry brush for one vehicle, or the stand for one vehicle. And I think I need to pull one of these brushes out of the water cup. This one should do just fine. And dry it as best I can. And then move this the hell out of here. But these games that have this business model that doesn't really jive with me. Doesn't really matter because they're either a topic that doesn't interest me, um, or just is a scale or something. It doesn't interest me. Like Flames of War. I guess the one that interests me probably the most, and I still didn't get involved in it, was Saga. Saga, I think, had some potential. Basically, the way you manage those dice, but the whole business model of like, oh, we're coming out with a new edition, throw all your books away, buy new ones. I'm like, this just seems just dishonest. Like, you know, forget cost. We put a lot of effort into doing this stuff, and you get involved in something like Flames of War, and then oh well, you can't use that. Those artillery guys anymore. Like well, what about all the time that I did building them? Like, who the hell are you? And you could just do stuff like Justin, where you create your own freaking rules, which I think is probably the way to go. Modify it as however you see fit. But I know that runs a lot of people off, and maybe it creates new players or new people buying it that normally would not have been able to buy it. But this is a Yog Tiger. There is King Tigers. There's two other King Tigers over there. What do you use antenna? I just use wire, and I use. I wish I could get this locally, but I can't. 0.015 music wire. If you do larger scales, I'd look for those bristles. Black nylon bristle would be freaking awesome, but I haven't been able to find any that are small enough for this. So I just epoxy them in, and don't worry. I think the antennas, I add a lot to the model. They add a whole lot to it. I'm real happy with putting them on there. So let's get this epoxy out, epoxy this thing down, and we'll look at the other vehicles and see how they turned out, which we've got another dozen to do. And somehow I missed, well, he was off to the side. There's your Berlin vehicle. about useless in an environment. Put a Yag Tiger in between those city streets between those two buildings, just sitting there waiting for somebody to throw a Molotov cocktail on it and cook some Jerry's. Cook some fascists. If it's in Berlin, it'd be fascist. I'm really disappointed with the trumpeter models, which this is one of them. It's my first or second trumpeter model. I have two of them. I built the SU 152 first. They don't have the option for having open hatches in the top of the tank. I mean, I don't need every hatch open, but I would like the commander to possibly be, sticking their noggin out. Okay, we're definitely going to need something on top of this one. So let's, what I got that's super heavy? T-34s. These all metal T-34s. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Let's put this over here where it's not going to be in the way. All right. Let's bring the good guys out first. Even though it's one of the 10 most evil empires, supposedly. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. Okay. Shermanlandia. Let's get these Americans out of the way. Well, that Firefly actually has a 50 caliber machine gun that can go on. I haven't installed that one on there yet. We'll get that later. This is what we're going to shake the grass into. And where is my little grass container? Unfortunately, these destroyed buildings that I have aren't going to go really well with ones that aren't destroyed. It's going to look kind of awkward. So I think I'm going to kind of work on two different towns. You could end up using them together, but we're going to build those destroyed ones before we start working on the clean ones. You know. We're going to put some kind of French ad. We're going to paint it on there. Haven't decided which one it is. Do you think you'll have a star point with a World War II and merge? Do you think you'll have a star point with World War II and merge into something else? You mean a starting point or a star point antenna? Because there's that too. Like this particular vehicle, this Panzer III is an artillery observation vehicle, and it would have a 5-star antenna here, which I thought about getting one, but they're expensive. They're like $7 or $8 just for one antenna. I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to do that. Am I going to get into something else? No, I don't think so. I have this I have this. Let me look for this grass. I have a small container here of it. If not, I'll just running out of it fast. I have a little Tupperware thing. I don't know where it is. I guess we'll just use this. I do have this modern. What's the correct terminology for it? Imagination, like imaginary nation thing for modern Africa that I started working on 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, or something like that. It's just too much to. At this time, no, I don't have any plans to do that. Just World War II. If I want something a little bit more lighthearted, it's in the same scale, maybe go into that. But that's a lot of terrain building. Which, as long as it turns out fine, that's not really an issue for me. Let's see, where's the Mr. Elmer's glue? But I've come to the realization I can't do everything at once. So to have something to show for it and not have like felt ass terrain, I need to limit to what I'm really going to do. If I start going in too many different directions, just nothing is going to get accomplished. And that's what I've decided to limit myself to. Not interested in World War One. It just depends on what narrative do you want. Are you interested in showing on the tabletop? Get a brush that's been slightly abused. All right, and let's get the tool out here. I can't really think of another theme I'd be interested in doing. I mean, the Gaslands is fun, but there's all kinds of problems with the rules that remind me of DBA. DBA type problems with the rules. And I just don't want to fight those wars anymore. Because the problem with the rules aren't necessarily that in our game group we all disagree with how they should be. We all pretty much agree, but then it's like a tournament type game, and then we don't have an official ruling from the thing. It's like, look, we'll play our own game, and if you like it, that's cool, and if you don't, well, you don't have to play it the way we do. And anything that involves more than that, and agreement by committee and shit like that, that's not what I'm here to game for. Now, how do I get away with doing this? I think I know how. Grab one of these, and that little thing's here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. It's almost time to buy more of this shit. No, we need more now. There we go. This, by the way, is Farm Pasture Blend from Scenic Express. I got this about 2004. 2003, 2004, something like that. And we'll do this in 2 batches. We'll do all the British tanks. Stop, put the tufts on them. Then do the German tanks. Which is about equal number of each. No, there's actually more German tanks. There's 6 Shermans and, was it 9 Germans? Something like that. I still think I got more Soviets than anybody else painted. Probably 40 more vehicles that are Soviet. Okay. Let's start stopping point. No, I foresee doing this the rest of. I just don't see stopping this. One little thing at a time. Do I fish or hunt or go camping? Well, I was in the Boy Scouts a long time ago, and so I'm rid of camping. I don't want to camp. You can't camp in Florida. It's too freaking hot here. Maybe where you live, but no, it's miserable to be outside. As a matter of fact, yesterday at night, I was yesterday is last week. I was sitting in the main room when we got these French doors. I kept hearing bip bip bip. Like what's banging into the wall? What's banging into the windows? Bugs. Just all kinds of bugs and stuff just banging into the. We got too many undesirable freaking insects and shit like that. Go camping, hunting. Is it child molester hunting season yet? Because that's the whole thing I'd want to hunt. I have no problem with people that do hunting. I am not a save the earth, tree hugger, animal rights person. I mean, I don't want animals being abused, but I don't want to hunt a beautiful creature. I ate all my vegetables, and there's ham available in grocery store. I'm not interested in hunting. I've had lots of people want me. You want to go hunting? I'm like, no, it's just not. I'd do it if I had to, but I don't know. It's just something about me it's that tiny little bit of inner hippie that's in me. It's tiny switch. I like shooting guns, but I kill cardboard. What was the third thing? Fishing. As long as it's saltwater fishing, yeah. And I don't really know much about fishing, but I'm all for going up. A good day on salt water is a win, no matter what you're doing. I just don't know anything about it. I've gone a couple times. Um, it's not something my dad did, so I didn't learn it from him. I'm not against it. I'm actually fine killing fish. That sounds kind of sad, but I'm not emotional about it, and I'm not emotional about the other things. It just doesn't interest me about killing a deer. You know, I'm glad people hunt them because they don't need to be stepping out in front of cars and killing people. But I just don't need to be one of them. You know, I have nothing against people doing it. So, just not my thing. I can't be into everything. But I do like firearms. But I just kill cardboard. I just kill cardboard in a safe manner. I have two modern imaginations. People's. I don't want to get into it because I'm just like I got so many fucking ideas. I have two modern imaginations. People Republic of Fallopian. Oh, is there a tube there that runs in between the major cities? And Democratic republics are never democratics or republics. You notice that? Democratic republics of Innovia have forces 6 millimeter for AK-47 Cold War commander. I was in a Boy Scouts too. May have been in camping in Northern Virginia for 3 days, even though I live deep in the north of Michigan. I like fishing and just can't hunt. I also have 20 millimeter forces, force on force, and moving into living on the front line rules, also developing a naval side with 1/3000s 1960s, 70s superpower cast-offs. I gotta go to Fallopia and catch the tube. Yeah, hunting just. First of all, it's hard for me to get excited about firearms that are used only for hunting. They're just not exciting enough. Um, and I'm all in favor of of people being safe with firearms. I think that I don't think firearms are dangerous at all. but some people shouldn't have them because they're just crazy, you know. And I didn't. That's the one thing I never did with my dad. My dad had some. He didn't have anything like really exciting, but he just never did it with me. You know, he just was something that he was like, there's nowhere to shoot around here, and you know, he was just a target shooter. He's like, so he just never did. I never did that with him. I didn't get involved until much later. I really didn't start getting involved until like 10 years ago. So it's just something that I always would have wanted to do. It's expensive. It's a lot more expensive than this hobby is cheap as shit. It really is. When you're talking about like boating, boating is just like you need another two incomes to do boating. Um, guns are cheap if you're if you just don't like I said, you can't just buy things under the sun. You can't see something new and get it. You just need to be happy with what you have. And but the hunting stuff, they use weird ammunitions that just don't make any sense to me. So, um, but there's some. I mean, I wouldn't want to go camping out there and run into a bear or something like that. I'm not like let's go fuck with a bear. I'm like, no, I'm minding my own business, and you come and mess with me. Yeah, it's gonna be we have to have some say in that. Yeah, I got my troops for my imagination. I have a I have a whatchamacallit. I have a what do you call that thing? Not Squarespace. What's that thing you do for free? I have the same thing for my DBA page. I have a page I created for my game that I was just creating the backstory. The backstory, you have a lot of fun with the backstory. But that game would be a lot more simple, tongue in cheek. Um, what's it called? WordPress. I have a WordPress site for it. You guys are interested. I didn't get very far. I messed with it in 10 years. Probably won't mess with it again. There's just not enough of there's just not enough of me to go around. Maybe if I was retired, but I certainly would be more likely to do it now than before because now that everybody's offended by everything, it's not very PC at all. Um, but it focuses all around this one particular nation who has a dictator, and we'll call him a Western friendly dictator. He's not a communist, but if there's anybody who's the good guy in a scenario, it's probably him. But basically, everybody that's in there is basically a bad guy of one form or the other, you know. But none of them are real nations. They're obviously inspired by other things. So, um, but yeah, I was kind of looking around. There's that one guy that has the Bongolesia thing, right? Like, the Bongolesia was so popular that the people that made AK-47 Republic even created a Bongolesia pack. This guy's got a blog and everything. I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's just rich. But I think that that's something I would create my own rules because it would be skirmish as well, but not this level of detail. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be an actual scale. But you're gonna tip over. Well, we'll shake you back in and reuse this stuff. But see, I did the backstory of several of the brainstorming, and it's a hoot. I mean, it could get really 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 funny. If you like inappropriate humor. But I think Africa is a great environment for that. I I happen to really like movies that take place in that kind of environment, whether it's something along the lines of the wild geese or what's the one with DiCaprio? Blood Diamond. I think that it is just a chaotic environment that is well. And I tell you what, I had never painted troops with dark skin until I did some of them. It's a lot of fun painting troops with dark skin. A welcome distraction from the normal. And yeah, the sky's the limit on that. You know, Latin America would also be a good place to do that as well. But I got a squad or so of the host nation, and then I got some other things, and then I just ran out of steam. You know, I think I would do that before I do Gaslands. Now I would play Gaslands. I just don't want to be the guy running it. You know, it's just too much responsibility. But there's all kinds of crazy shit, you know. There's one faction that was basically a bunch of armed bunch of peaceniks that are armed. They drive around a Prius. Got a little Prius for them. You know, that kind of shit. You know, that kind of stuff that's, well, hell, that was before electric cars. So now they'd have to have an electric fucking car. There's nothing more candy ass than an electric fucking car. For now, it'll be a wind up car next. So, yeah. It basically picks on everybody. Everybody's fair game. I even have a vehicle for it. I even have my United Nations. You guys have seen that. You've seen my United Nations little vehicle. I should be able to find this relatively soon. Yeah, here it is. This is my UN type thing. Except it's not UN, it's the Multinational Organization of Regional Observers and Negotiators. Moron. That's as far as I got. I didn't get any moron troops. But that's the kind of this is an old Matchbox. 1973, made in England. So, yes, it's a type of a game that'd be like Pig Wars, where everybody's got kind of a different agenda to do. Somebody may want to take somebody out. Somebody else, you know. Who are you playing today? I'm playing the morons. Who are they? That's Multinational Organization of Regional Observers and Negotiators, of course. They'd have white helmets, not light blue ones. Okay, so this is all of the grass that we're going to use for the Brits. So I'm going to move this off to the side. We're going to keep this. But I realize I don't have time or energy, especially both of those things, to do everything. So I got to pick and choose. And if I'm going to pick and choose, we're doing WW2. Because that's what I want to read about. I don't want to read about this other stuff, you know. All right. The other tuft one I'm using is lowland shrubs. which for the time being has been very available. And I got the colors here that are very useful. I just kind of want to keep this theme going for the Western European stuff. Or the European stuff. All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should be enough. Okay, put these little guys back. I believe these are made in Portugal. And the other ones are made in Portugal too. So Portugal is the land of tufts. Yep, made in Portugal. Tufts and cork. And port, I guess, too. All right, we're going to use these ones I have left over before anything else. And maybe throw a couple more of these in here. All right, we're going to need more of this. But there's some free rules out there. It was kind of entertaining. I got a wild hair up my ass about possibly creating my own rules with a really simple system. And I thought about it, and it looked good on paper. But it's just too difficult to do that and build DBA armies at the same time. And now it would just detract from this. Some of this stuff could cross over, but most of it couldn't. Maybe if I was doing Pacific, there'd be some of the terrain you could cross over, but and there's all kinds of different terrain in Africa. So that doesn't exactly, it's not all a one encompassing type thing, but can't do all of it. But I do have quite a few figures by, God, what's the name of that guy? RH Enterprises or something like that. RH Models, whatever the hell the guy's name is. He has a very distinct look of his figures' faces too, and normally have a kind of a gripe about that, but I'm actually okay with his style. They all look the same, regardless of the color of their skin. They all have the same facial features, but it works. It works for. I actually like the sculpting style of them quite a bit. Can't remember what his name is now. If I remember correctly, he's got a pretty archaic style ordering system. Doesn't have a really well developed website. He's probably, a guy that sculpts things and sells them on the side. He's not, all polished like Some places that just want to sell product, they don't do any of the work themselves. Get in there. We'll put a big one. Put a big bush here at the front here. Okay. 2 down. That's the ugly 2. Do the other firefly. Actually, the matchbox isn't ugly. Just has the road wheels that are in the wrong place, facing the wrong direction. Not my fault. Not my fault, Dr. Jones. Acheron. Go ahead and pull all these out of here. These, you can cut them down to whatever size you need, which sometimes is harder to do than you would think it would be. Yeah, but that Bongalesia guy, he's got some pretty good reading. It's pretty entertaining. And when I came across that, I'm like, oh, I could do this. This is going to be a hoot. The jokes just write themselves, but it takes time. It takes time to create all this stuff from scratch. All right. These are a little wider, so there's a little bit less meat around them. Just missed being run over on this one. Okay. Arrogant. It's an arrogant command tank. All right, we'll put these back. That other thingy is out there in the garage. Pretty sure it's in the garage. Yeah, a little spinner thing. That turret, and especially the one that's on that Frontline Models one, are definitely got to be careful with it so they don't end up on the floor. But that is my British Shermans complete. Fourth, I never remember what the hell these things are called. Fourth, ninth, is it fourth, seventh? Guards, Dragoons? I can never remember what the hell they're called. Eighth Tank Brigade. Well, these guys are ready to go. And that's where we're going to stop this morning. And we'll pick up the Germans at a different date. We'll pick up the buildings at a different date. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for stopping by, as always. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye-bye.